Have you heard the news? Our First Amendment gives the press the right to keep the public informed. That's a tough job for the press, to tell the truth about powerful people. It's been said that journalism is the first draft of history. Since freedom of the press is a constitutional right, journalists have a right to do their job and bring us the news, no matter if it's good or bad news. We, the people, have the right to be told. But where do the journalists get the information they share with us? Reports, interviews, and sometimes secret sources speak to reporters in confidence. But unlike lawyers and some doctors, whose conversations have legal protections to keep them confidential, most laws do not protect the relationship between a journalist and their source of information. That means a judge can demand to know who told the reporter the information. A judge can even hold a reporter in contempt of court, which means paying a fine or even going to jail if they don't reveal the source of their information. Journalists have always been under attack. Back in 1735, a journalist was the first reporter jailed for not revealing the source of his information. Even today, reporters can be put in jail for not telling how they got their information. That's a big deal. Sharing news is as old as gossip. Printing the news started over 500 years ago. Today, we get our news from TV, social media, newspapers, magazines, bulletins, blogs, the radio, on our phone or laptops or other platforms. News organizations report the news and also allow for various viewpoints to be shared through opinion pieces, editorials, and experts debating topics of the day. Reporters cover news in small towns and big cities, from arts to science, athletics, and politics. In America, the news is as diverse as our communities. There was a time when major newspapers mainly covered wealthy people and their interests. So every community started their own source of news beyond mainstream newspapers. Back in 1847, Frederick Douglass started the North Star newspaper to publish news about abolishing slavery. The Suffragists newspaper was started in 1913 to advance a woman's right to vote. What if someone doesn't like what the media has to say? Well, politicians and the press have been fighting since George Washington was president. There's a very famous case that took place during the Civil Rights Movement involving Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mr. L.B. Sullivan, the Public Safety Commissioner in Montgomery, Alabama. Some ministers in Montgomery took out an ad in the New York Times titled, "Heed Their Rising Voices." It criticized the way police treated African Americans and college students, and especially Dr. Martin Luther King. Sullivan sued the New York Times and the ministers for libel in state court. He won a lot of money. Libel means what the newspaper published was false. This case of New York Times versus Sullivan went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. The court ruled that the New York Times had a First Amendment right under freedom of the press to publish the ad even though it had some mistakes in it. And politicians can only win a libel case if they can prove actual malice and a reckless disregard for the truth. In other words, making simple mistakes is not enough. This case gave the press and the people the power to criticize public officials without being sued. Let's review. The First Amendment gives freedom of the press. Journalists have a constitutional right to do their job. They use sources for their stories, some of them secret. The press can keep us informed without fear of being sued because of the case of New York Times versus Sullivan. Wow. That's all for now. This is your democracy. Keep it strong.